I can't say I'm happy to be here. I suppose none of you would want to change places with me right now. There's lots of other places I'd rather be than have those lights flashing in my eyes. Anyhow, my red tie has nothing to do with politics. Although it would be a good time to sport a red tie, I guess. Anyhow, to make sure you believe me when I say I'm from Pimlico, I've been practicing my Pimlico accent all morning. So living in Pimlico, we were surrounded by English-speaking villagers. And whenever we ventured out, this was back in the 1940s and 50s, they would make fun of our accent. Never bothered me because I don't have one. But I had a brother who God, now I needed that. Yeah, I had a brother who resented that, and he wanted to study languages until he was perfect. So he went away and learned languages, and when he came back, he went to a store in Yarmouth, and he said, I would like a loaf of bread, please. I would like a quart of milk. Perfect English. I would like a dozen eggs. Oh, the clerk said, you must be one of those French guys from Pimlico. My brother said, how do you know that? The clerk said, this is a Canadian Tire store. And years ago, you could tell, oh, you can laugh a while more. Years ago, you could tell what people did for their livings. You know, if a doctor would be dressed like a doctor, and a taxi driver would be dressed as a taxi driver, and a garagier would have his fancy coat and overall with their name on them. But nowadays, you can't tell what people do for their living. I was at the hospital visiting my aunt not too long ago, and I saw this guy dressed in white, and he was pushing that thing that has wheels and pipes and bottle hangings and God knows what. You know the thing I mean. And anyhow, I wanted to make some small talk, assuming he was a doctor. I said, boy, that's some machine you have there. I said, I wouldn't want to be hooked up to that. He said, neither would I. This is the vacuum cleaner. Gee, you're a pretty good audience. I should have brought more cue cards. Nothing like an audience who had wine before. So I've been telling the same jokes now for about 40 years. So somebody said, you're pretty good, you should try out one of those yuck clubs. So I went there to Halifax. I told my 10 best jokes. Nobody laughed, not one person. But there was this guy in the back who was applauding all the time. So afterwards, I went to see him. I said, I told my 10 best jokes. Nobody laughed except you. I said, I want to thank you. Oh, he said, I wasn't applauding. He said, I'm a waiter working here. I was just trying to get ketchup out of a bottle. And in Pimlico now we have lots of older houses that are unoccupied, and when they're being sold, sometimes they have auctions, they auction off this stuff. And my brother Cyril wanted a painting there, and he wanted it pretty bad, and he was bidding on it, and somebody else was bidding on it, and the price kept going up and up and up. And after a while, my brother bought it, but he paid more than he wanted to. So when he went to pay off the auctioneer had a beautiful yellow bird in a cage in the back of his truck. So my brother said, how much do you want for that bird? The auctioneer said, $500. He said, can he talk? Talk, the auctioneer said. Who do you think was bidding against you? You like that one, eh? My niece Carmen is the only one of my relatives who takes an interest in telling jokes. She told me one the other day. She's been collecting old stories for her school projects or college, whatever. And anyhow, she told me about this guy in New Brunswick. Back in the old days, in the horse and buggy days, he rode into a saloon. I guess few people liked the guy, so when he went out, somebody had painted his horse green. So he went back in, he said, "Okay, which one of you guys painted my horse?" And this great big guy, built like a boxer, went to him. He said, "I painted your horse. What about it?" And the little guy said, "I just wanted to tell you it's ready for the second coat." And I go at school and I tell stories to the children at the same time I'm telling you. But anyhow, I stayed there over noon, and this boy ate 6 chocolate bars, nothing but chocolate bars. None of my business, but I said to him, "You should be eating healthier than this, all this sugar and chocolate. It's not good for you." He said, "I'll have you know that my grandfather lived to be 106. I said, "You mean to tell me your grandfather lived to be 106 by eating 6 chocolate bars a day?" He said, "No, he lived to be 106 by minding his own business." And as you know, I do some writing, and years ago, old Fred Hetfield, who just died recently, gave me a job writing obituaries. And this old guy in Yarmouth had died, and nobody could say anything good about him. So he said, "Go there and try to find out something." So I went to see his widow, and I said, "What can I write?" Well, she said, "There isn't much." I said, "Did he belong to the good organizations like the Knights of Columbus or the Kiwanis Club of Lions?" "No," she said, "he didn't belong to any of the good ones." I said, "Well, did he belong to any of the bad ones? Was he a member of the Ku Klux Klan?" She said, "What's that?" I said, "You know those devils under the white sheets?" "Oh," she said, "he was that all right." Anyhow, they gave me 10 minutes. I'm not kidding. Anyhow, I for many years, and I still do a column in the Valley papers, and I read someplace when you don't know what to write, you should make things happen and write about it. So I had ran out of ideas. I went to a vegetable stand, and there was this young guy there. I said, "I would like to buy half a cabbage." "Oh," he said, "I'm sorry, sir, we only sell whole cabbages." So I made a fool of myself. I said, "It's because of the accent, isn't it? Because I'm French, you don't want to sell me half a cabbage. If my English was as good as the people in Kings County, you would sell me half a cabbage." So the guy was so excited, he said, "I'm going to see the boss." So I tiptoed behind him. He didn't know I was there. He said, "There's a darn fool out there, an idiot who wants to buy half a cabbage." And the boss said, "Who's the guy behind you?" And he turned around, he said, "And this nice man here wants to buy the other half." And while I was at that supermarket, there were 3 old ladies sitting on a stand there, so I thought I would sit at the other end and listen what they were saying. Maybe it would give me an idea what to write about. And one woman said, "You know, when I was young, I could buy a cucumber this long and it would only cost, 25 cents. And the other woman said, "You're right." She said, "I just bought 2 Spanish onions," and she gestured how big the Spanish onions were. "Cost me an arm and a leg." And the other woman said, "I'm stone deaf. I didn't hear a word, but I sure remember the guy you just described." And years ago, in my parents' days, the French married the French, the English married the English, the Catholic married the English, the non-Catholic married the non-Catholic. And one time we had a so-called mixed marriage at our church, and the priest was there and the minister from Argyle. And after the ceremony, the bartender gave a drink to our priest, and of course, the priest was enjoying his drink. But when they offered one to the minister, he said, "Oh my God, no, not me." He said, "I would sooner commit adultery." So our priest gave back his drink. He said, "I didn't know we had a choice." It's all in the delivery, isn't it? And at church, we always had to pray in French. We always prayed in French, but once a year we had missionaries who came from the States on the Boston boat, and they were teaching us to pray in English, that prayer, "The Lord be with you," and we said, "And also with you." And he was praying and preaching, and the microphone kept breaking down, and he said, "And the Lord be with you. There's something wrong with this microphone." And we said, "And also with you." And I asked my grandfather when I was a kid where we came from, and my grandfather said he believed in Darwin's theory that we came from monkeys. So I thought it was a bit strange. I asked my grandmother, oh, she said no. She said God created heaven and the earth and all the people, that's where we come from. I said, that's funny, Grandpa just said we came from monkeys. Oh yeah, she said he was only talking about his side of the family. My 10 minutes are up, so I'll tell one more story. The Pope made a surprise visit to Pumlico, and the priest sent me to pick him up at the airport. So, gee, some people don't believe me. The priest sent me to pick him up at the airport, so when we got in the car, the Pope was in the back seat and me driving, and the Pope said, you know, in Rome, they won't let me drive. Why don't you let me drive? You can't say no to the Pope. So I sat in the back seat, and in no time, we were just flying along. And the policeman stopped us, but when he saw the Pope, he panicked. Said, I've got a big one here. I don't dare to give him a ticket. So he phoned the commissioner he phoned his boss. He said, I've got a big one here. And the boss said, well, how big is he? Is he the commissioner of the RCMPs? Oh, the policeman said he's bigger than that. He said, is it the premier of the province? Bigger than that? Well, he said, I hope to God you didn't stop the prime minister's car. Bigger than that? He said, well, how big is this guy anyhow? The policeman said, I don't know, but he's got the Pope for a chauffeur. Thank you. You're a good audience.